Picture this scene, September 2008, in the quiet Dutch town of Groningen, about 110 miles northeast of Amsterdam. A 14-year-old boy is riding his bike when his normal day turns into a nightmare. Two young men suddenly appear behind him, drag him off his bike, and rob him of €165 and his phone. For months, the case had no leads. The police searched but found nothing. No witnesses came forward, and all they had to work with was the boy's description of the people who robbed him. But here's where this story takes an unexpected turn. In March of the following year, the victim was at home, sitting at his computer. He decided to look up something that would change everything. He opened Google Maps Street View and started looking at the exact spot where he was robbed 6 months earlier. What he discovered next was incredible. The Google Street View car had captured the two men walking up behind him in the moments just before the crime happened. Like all Street View images, everyone's faces were blurred out for privacy. But the boy knew exactly what he was looking at. Without wasting any time, he called the police to tell them about this new piece of evidence. Now things get interesting. The authorities took action and contacted Google, asking them to provide the unblurred version of these images to help identify the suspects. And that's when everything fell into place. As soon as investigators got their hands on the clear pictures, they recognized one of the robbers. He'd been involved in a previous crime. The second robber? It turned out to be his twin brother. The Dutch police were able to track down and arrest both twins. But here's where the trail goes cold. After searching through records, we don't have any official confirmation about whether they were charged and sentenced. We also don't know if the young victim ever got his phone and money back. One of Long Island's darkest mysteries started unfolding between 2010 and 2011, when investigators discovered 11 bodies scattered near Gilgo Beach on Long Island's South Shore. The bodies, found between Nassau and Suffolk counties, told a chilling story. Most belonged to female escorts, with some murders dating all the way back to 1993. But for over a decade, the killer walked free. That changed in 2023, when investigators finally caught their suspect, Rex Hoyerman, a 60-year-old architect and father of two. 3 key pieces cracked the case: DNA evidence, cell phone records, and tracks left by his Chevy Avalanche. The investigation revealed layer after layer of horror. At first, Rex faced charges for killing 4 women. Then, as investigators dug deeper, DNA evidence tied him to 2 more murders. But what they found on his devices painted an even darker picture. The suspect had been methodically using multiple burner phones, making thousands of searches about the terrible things he would later do to his victims. Then came the most disturbing discovery. Deep in his basement, investigators found a massive Word document. Inside, Rex had carefully planned out every murder, writing about them in spine-chilling detail. This wasn't the work of someone acting on impulse. The document contained detailed checklists, specific steps he needed to take before, during, and after each killing. Court evidence showed Hoyerman had been hunting since 1993. If the court finds him guilty, he's facing multiple life sentences, stacked one after another. As of 2025, investigators are still piecing together all the evidence, and with each new discovery, the case gets more disturbing. Then, the internet made its own chilling find. In 2023, people browsing online stumbled across a Google Street View image that sent shivers down everyone's spine. It showed Hoyerman talking to an unknown woman near his office on East 36th Street, captured just over a year before his arrest. To this day, no one knows who this woman was, possibly another intended victim, but there's no way to be certain. Adding to the eeriness, Rex was wearing the exact same shirt he had on in a YouTube interview from 2022, where he calmly discussed his architect work at his Fifth Avenue firm. Despite all the evidence, his defense lawyer, Michael Brown, maintains that police arrested the wrong person. July 2018. A video appears online that leaves the world in shock. Channel 4 released footage so disturbing it made people stop in their tracks. Men in military uniforms were leading women and children down a dusty road. What these soldiers did next would spark a worldwide investigation, powered by something we use every day: Google Maps. The video showed the ugly truth. These armed men forced their victims onto an empty patch of land and shot them in cold blood. Their excuse? They claimed these women and children belonged to Boko Haram, a dangerous group that had everyone living in fear. But viewers around the world weren't buying it. The footage spread like wildfire across the internet. Hundreds of people who watched it came to the same conclusion. This happened in Cameroon, but Cameroon's leaders quickly jumped to defend themselves. "This isn't our country," they said. Someone's trying to blame our army for killing innocent people. But the BBC News team saw through these denials and decided to dig deeper. They were about to uncover a web of lies using nothing but technology and determination. Here's where the investigation gets interesting. The BBC team got a secret tip, and that's when they turned to Google Maps. Looking at the video's background, they spotted something crucial, a mountain range that looked familiar. Cross-checking the maps, they found these exact same mountains near a village called Krawa-Mafa, sitting right on Nigeria's border. But they didn't stop there. The team dug through years of Google's satellite pictures, piecing together a timeline. They narrowed it down to exactly when this horrible event happened, somewhere between March 20th and April 5th, 2015. But the BBC team wasn't done. They kept digging, and with each new discovery, Cameroon's story started falling apart. The government had claimed their army didn't even use the kinds of guns shown in the video. Big mistake. The BBC's research revealed these were specific guns, Serbian-made Zastava M21s, exactly the type used by Cameroon's army. Even the uniforms the killers wore matched perfectly with their military gear. Every lie the government told was being exposed by careful investigation. A month after their strong denials, Cameroon's leaders changed their story completely. Suddenly, they admitted 7 soldiers were under investigation. When the BBC showed them all their findings, Cameroon's communication minister couldn't hide anymore. His exact words? 7 soldiers were arrested, disarmed. They are under investigation right now. I can confirm that all 7 of them are in prison. In 2020, justice finally came, but it left many people asking, was it enough? 4 of the soldiers seen in the video got 10 years in prison for murder. The soldier who filmed everything? Just 2 years. And get this, 2 others walked away completely free. Think about that. You can take innocent lives and only face 10 years behind bars. But here's the incredible part. These killers would have gotten away with everything if someone hadn't decided to play detective with Google Maps. The whole story shows us something amazing about our modern world. Sometimes justice doesn't need fancy tools or high-tech equipment. Sometimes all it takes is the same app you use to find the nearest coffee shop. One careful look at satellite images brought down a government cover-up and brought at least some justice to the victims' families. On July 30th, 2010, 3 men were drinking in a backyard in Richland County, South Carolina. The group was Leslie Todd Parvin, Edgar Lopez, and Pablo Gutierrez Guzman. During what started as a normal afternoon, anger flared up between them, and Leslie pulled out a gun from his waist and shot the other 2 men dead. To this day, no one really knows what the fight was about. After killing them, Parvin ran away to Louisiana in his green Kia minivan. When he got there, he tried to hide who he was by shaving his head and getting rid of both the gun and his van. Though he stayed hidden for a few days, police started looking through all the papers of green Kia vans signed up in Louisiana. From what the police files tell us, someone had seen part of Parvin's van's license plate and told the police about it. Then, in a smart move, officers looked up the suspect's house on Google Maps Street View. Right there in the picture, they saw a green minivan sitting in front of his home, with the same license plates they were looking for. This was all they needed to catch him. On August 19th, a family member brought Parvin back to his house in the Windsor Lake area, where police quickly arrested him for killing 2 people. He later got 35 years in prison. During their search for answers, it was found out that Parvin had given 20 years of his life to the army, going overseas 5 times, and doctors had said he had PTSD in 2007. His father told the court that fighting near Iraq and Afghanistan might have changed how his son acted that terrible day. You'd think that after giving 20 years of his life to serve his country, Parvin would have gotten the help he needed for his mind to live a quiet life. Instead, 2 men who did nothing wrong are dead, and the killer will spend most of his life in jail. When he's 75, Parvin will walk out of prison into a world that will feel like a strange dream to him. Before she became a headline, Kim Wall was an award-winning Swedish journalist. At just 30 years old, she traveled the world covering social justice stories, her talent taking her from Uganda to Cuba, from the Marshall Islands to Kenya. Her powerful reporting appeared in prestigious journals like the New York Times, the South China Morning Post, and the Atlantic. But one story would turn out to be her last. The story seemed perfect at first. In 2017, while visiting Copenhagen with her boyfriend, Kim met someone who seemed fascinating. Peter Madsen, a brilliant Danish inventor and self-taught engineer, who'd not only built his own submarine, but designed rockets too. He even had plans to launch himself into space in the near future. On August 10th, Kim boarded Madsen's homemade submarine, the UC-3 Nautilus, for what should have been a brief interview off the Copenhagen coast. She never came home. Then, the horrible discoveries began. When Kim didn't return that day, her worried partner reported her missing, and an official investigation was launched. Just days later, on August 21st, the case took a dark turn. A passing cyclist found parts of her body washed up on a nearby beach. The nightmare wasn't over. About a month and a half later, police divers made another gruesome discovery. The rest of her body, cut up and hidden in multiple different weighted-down bags. Madsen's story kept changing. First, he told investigators Kim died by accident when the submarine's hatch hit her head. Then, in a strange twist, he completely changed his account. Now he claimed she died from inhaling toxic fumes. But the evidence told a different story. Investigators found no trace of toxic fumes in her system, but they did find 15 stab wounds on Kim's body. Finally, the truth came out. After spending time in police custody, Madsen confessed. He had murdered Kim Wall and thrown her separated body parts into the Baltic Sea. In April 2018, courts found him guilty on 3 separate charges and sentenced him to life in prison, where he's been spending his days for the past 6 years. But even prison couldn't hold him. In 2021, Madsen tried an extremely elaborate escape attempt using a bomb threat, earning himself another 21 months behind bars after they recaptured him. Here's where it gets even creepier. Google Maps Street View had actually captured Madsen climbing into his submarine before all this happened. When he finally confessed, he shared something chilling. He never intended to just take Kim's life. He wanted to sink the Nautilus forever, even if it meant both he and the innocent journalist would die inside. Today, we still don't know exactly how he killed her, but at least we know this. Madsen will spend the rest of his life behind bars with no possibility of ever coming back to society. Porto Rotondo sits in Sardinia, a place known for its huge mansions, beautiful beaches, and fancy shops and restaurants. Back in 2002, something strange happened. An Italian businessman sold his villa there for €280,000. The price was so low for such a fancy area that it made the Italian finance police suspicious right away. They turned to an unexpected tool to investigate: Google Earth. The key to finding this villa was something special about it: a swimming pool with a very unusual shape. The police used this detail while searching through Google Earth's views of the area from above. When they finally spotted the property, they knew they had found what they were looking for. The proof was clear. Every house nearby was worth way more than €1 million. There was no way this villa should have sold for such a small amount. But finding the house was just the start. Once the finance police had proof from Google's satellite photos that the businessman had lied about the price, they started looking into his bank accounts. There they found something big: €7 million that he had never reported, hidden away over many years. After this discovery, the details get fuzzy. The original Italian article doesn't say much about what happened next, and we don't know for sure what punishment he got. With all that secret cash stashed away, you can bet he lost everything he owned and ended up behind bars for quite a while.